Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome back. It's been a week. I'm so happy you're joining me. And I was up early. I know that this is a big day and we have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things to sort of feel and hold. So um, let's just dive in. We're going to call this what is happening? What's really happening? Because to be able to understand this on a larger dimensional energetic level is what I do, whether it's working with parents when they're divided, trying to figure out what to do about their child, um, or the division within ourselves. I think that this is the time that we're going to start, and I'm just going to plow through here and present to you what came up and what ideas I want to share with you. Okay. So before we get going, make sure that you like and share and subscribe if this is oh my God, my hair's all over the place this morning. If this is interesting information for you and that if it's been helpful, okay? So let's start with the solar flare updates. We've had steady solar flares. I have my phone all set up. I did to show you what it looks like on here, which is that there are steady M-class solar flares every day between a 1 and a 2. So an M-class again is that tower moment where something is asking you to sort of take a look at it. And so building up all week long and through the weekend now we have M1 and 2s, and then this morning we just had a huge M9, almost an X flare. Okay, consistent. Second, on November 5th, on the US election date, we had what was it, X 2.39. So it was an X flare, which was a huge burst of energy. And it happened at 6:40 a.m. on the day that all of us Americans were gathering to hold this is going to drive me crazy, our US elections, right? Okay. Followed by, and I wanted to show you this. This is from Pam Young, and she's amazing. 14 on November 6th, 14 M-class flares. Again, hanging out between M1 and M2. Doesn't matter how big they are. It's just that consistent rocking and sort of it's beyond tapping, shaking us. It's like being in a rock tumbler or being on a vibration or using a sieve and watching all of the things that you don't want just sort of falling away. That's what all of these are. And then within this period of time, or within this list, Pam also said that there were 25 within 3 days of M-class flares. So we know something really big is going on. So think of it like a flash of boom on November 5th of imagination of light, followed by an intense dismantling is what I would say, an intense level of dismantling. So it's there's all this energetic activity on top of the US presidential and national election, right? So I'm just going to say, is this by design? How do we know what's going on? Especially those of us who have been following like these solar flares, and are they coming from the sun? Are they coming through the sun? Are they coming from the galactic sun behind that? It'd be really interesting for you to go find out, what some of the belief systems are around how this energy is sent out through the sun, whether it go through science, go through metaphysical, go through a lot of different levels, right? Because this is intense. And what I want to do is acknowledge that we're going to have some symptoms. We're going to have some really bizarre symptoms or deeper, bigger symptoms. You're going to see me doing this the whole time. So number one is deep exhaustion. The level of exhaustion that we're experiencing right now is huge. Number two, we're going to have some emotions right at the surface, whether it's anger, whether it's joy, whether it is fear, whether it is protectiveness, mama bear protectiveness. It's going to be all of that stuff. We're going to have mental overwhelm. Okay. So some of it's going to look like mental overwhelm. Like I'm sending some of these stories out and I don't even know what to do with it. Some of us are in this physical exhaustion, like all of the things that are going on around me. I don't even know. If you look really closely at this person's face, they're just sagging. They're just tired. I don't know what to do with all these external mechanisms that just keep pummeling me and surprising me. We've used this card several times, which is Oh, wow. It feels to me like the things that I used to be able to juggle, I can't juggle anymore, right? There's this level of anxiety, like I got to deal with this, I got to deal with this, I got to deal with this, but we don't really have the energy. And so we're sort of doing this in a dual point, which is I'm trying to do production and I can't because I'm exhausted, right? Um, and we have high levels of anxiety. We also have sleep disturbances. So this is the Roig deck. This is the Seven of Cups. What happens when our emotions, when our energy system is inundated by a bunch of frequencies and shards and things that pummel us and they don't nurture and support us, and we feel like we're just pieces being moved around. I want to hold this card and really use this throughout our video this morning and keep going back and referring to this, is that what happens when our energetic frequencies are being messed with, right? Because remember, we're also in the final days. Here comes this list again. I can hardly wait on November 19th when I can put it down. We're in those final 9 days of Pluto being in Capricorn, right? In the 29 degrees. And what that also means is that it's intense. You think about it on the last days of moving. Think of it on the last days of your job. Either you've got to clean out your desk, you've got to update everybody. If you're moving, you've got all of the final deep clean and packing to do. We're in that intense cleansing period, right? And that means that we are we are just blowing stuff off of our body, and the energetic densities are just falling off rapidly by design. I'm going to say all of this whole fall, September 1st to November 19th, has been all by design, right? So when we look at this on the post-election, right, that we've been struggling to deal with the anger, with the hope, with the dreams, with the wreckage of the relationships, with the divisiveness that has happened between us. We've really, I've seen families draw lines in the sand that this is, I believe this, and you're wrong on the other side. And the other group is saying, I believe this and you're wrong. And so we have this divisiveness in our nation. And the divisiveness is external. And it's also internal, because whatever's happening inside, we see on the outside, and whatever's on the outside, we see on the inside, right? So this has brought up an enormous amount of energy that is attached to rhetoric. And I want to put that word out there, rhetoric, that we have been attaching to words. And I have this list, words like stupid. This is a stupid woman. There's a lack of intelligence there. Rednecks, Trumpsters, Hitler, Nazis, whether it is misogynist, narcissist, word salad, racist. Think of all of these words that we've been throwing back and forth at each other, and hoping that we wake them up, that we get them to see things our way. And that combination of rhetoric is where we are showing our divisiveness in the most amazing way. And it's like divisiveness, like, I don't know how to cope with all of these external shakings going on from the flares, from Pluto, from the cosmos, from everything. And during this election, what we're seeing is that it's easier to point the finger out there than at ourselves, right? It's easier. But what is it? You point your finger out, there's 3 pointing back. So whatever you're having an issue with, it's ending up being something that you're being asked to address. You're being asked to emotionally address your frequency. Does that make sense? So here's my perspective, right? Here's my perspective, my big Pisces, double Pisces picture, right? Big picture. We've been in a controlled environment, whether you want to call it a matrix, whether you want to call it a timeline, whatever you want to call it, where the information we receive has been strategically designed for us to receive. So I want to go back, because I'm a historian, and I did a lot of my work was about during and before, during and after World War II, right? So post World War II. We had the information in educational, wish I had my glasses on, the Informational and Educational Exchange Act of 1948. Can't read my handwriting. And in 1948, what was really going on is that we don't ever want to see something happen again. And we're preparing for this divisiveness we're having with Russia. So we're going to control all the information that comes in and out, and we're going to protect the American public from it. Then you have the covert CIA program called Project Mockingbird, which was a blessing on the State Department and those behind the scenes to influence the American propaganda to make sure that there was no uprise of anything that could happen. We were scared. We were pummeled to the ground by World War II, and we put in these pieces that never left. Right? They've always been there. Right? So then what we do is when we go after the idea that our frequencies have been targeted, that whether it's sight, whether it's sound, whether it's repetitive messaging, whether it's the repetitive words that come over and over again, whether it's in music, it's in the music hurts, whether it's in video montages, in programs that we're watching, whether it's movies, whether it's shows, whether it's news, that what we're having is visuals, and all of our senses are being controlled by frequencies. Now, I know that sounds like that's really out there, but I'm often wonder if that isn't why our ears are ringing. That isn't why we have so many symptoms that just make us feel sick all the time, is because what we're doing is we're pushing back on psychological manipulation that's been in our mainstream media, that's been in our programming, that's been on everything that we listen to, we send into our houses for the last 75 years. And well, that's just since these programs started. We've been doing this for a lot longer than that. Whether it's archons, whether it is reptilian, whether it is deep state, whether it is the military industrial complex, has permission to send these things out. Do your research. If you want some places to start, some words to go look up, by all means, message me, because that's why I wrote the Indigo Assignment, is that the Indigos came in to hold a frequency that was different in what they endured. So down below is the link for my book, the Indigo Assignment, which goes into a lot more depth on all of this, right? So what we're seeing is that we've been fed words that react to our energies, right? And so what's happening is we're collapsing. We're collapsing the control. We're actually blowing the control off of us. We're learning how to use tools where we're not letting that stuff in. We're not subjecting ourselves to it, right? And we're not allowing that media manipulation inside of our system. So, I have an analogy for you, and I thought I would give this to you. I worked through it yesterday with my dear friend Ashley, and we really played with this, and I think it's good. Okay, so like, let's say you're a fish, and you're a fish in a small lake, right? And that particular small lake that you live in happens to be really popular with people who love to fish or catch fish, bring their kids to fish, come out with their boats, do everything. They like to fish, right? So there you are, and you're in this water, and these humans all over the perimeter and on top of the surface are dropping things like really nice, juicy worms, bright colored dabs of stuff that they smell really good, or shiny objects that spin across the water or sink down and move around. Or my favorite is they have all these little things that look like the insects that the fish like to jump up and bite. So all of this is going on above and in the depths of the lake. So you're a fish and you're looking at it and you're like, if someone had told me that there's a hook inside every single one of those things, would I go take that bite? And so where we are is we're now fish going like, whoa, wait a minute. There's hooks in all of those words. There's hooks in all of those behaviors. There's hooks in all of those frequencies, right? And if I can just swim around from the bottom and ignore those juicy pieces of bait floating around, then I'm going to be just fine in my water, right? So if you take the bait, if you react or you get captured, right, then you're hooked and you're part of a human's meal or a catch and release. You might have some scars, you just never know. So you have to recognize the bait and you have to stay away from the bait so that you can survive. So what we're seeing during this election is that, and during this week, is that some big stuff came down, and we navigated through, like, what am I supposed to do? Who am I? What am I missing? How did I not see that? And we're starting to navigate, because again, this is what's been happening over the last week. We've been blowing things off of our systems that have kept us controlled for a long time. So I have 6 tips for you. Before I go into the tips, I want to say that we're going to do a discussion on Tuesday, 10:30 Mountain Standard Time and 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. The link is just for 5 o'clock, but it'll work for both 10:30 and 5. If you don't, you want to use that link, you can pay for the discussion group, or you can join my Patreon for $11 a month and have all discussion groups at all times available to you. So do whatever you need to do. Just support me in it, whatever way you can. There's also a cup of coffee, PayPal, anything that supports the work that I do is greatly appreciated right now, because I've noticed that as we've gotten closer to the election, the clientele, the people pulled into themselves. And what I would like to do is have that open up and flow again. So thank you very much. All right, tip number 1, calm down your nervous system, your fear, your anger, your reactivity, because it muddles your consciousness. That's the best way to say it. It muddles your consciousness, it creates imbalance, and it increases your reactivity. And so that is where you're like in reactivity all the time, and your nervous system is shot, and you're easily subjected to fear, right? So you use quiet, you use calm, you use getting outside in nature, and breathing to get back to. So you want, number 1, calm down your nervous system. No matter what is happening out there, calm down your nervous system. Okay. Number 2, open up your observer, where notice where your internal flare-ups happen. So if I were to say the word, like, what would be Trumpster, or I were to say misogynist, or I were to say vaccination, or I were to say any of these words that have been really hot triggers over the last couple of years, what happens to your energy inside? Does it twinge? Does it go, what? And then know that you're activated. And this is what we're working on, is we're working on removing that activation, right? This is yours to address. It has nothing to do with what's happening out there. Because what happens is when we say, oh, I'm not taking the bait, I'm not going into reactivity, then we remove ourselves from the victim energy, which is they make me, when they do that, then I have this. This is really an important part. So we do this through our observer. Number 3, do some really, really deep internal scanning. What words are you using? What words came up in your dialogue that you realized, I don't even know when I started to use that? A good example for me would be, I've understood mainstream media, I've understood mass media, but I've never heard the term legacy media. And I noticed that there is a certain level of podcasters or news agencies, probably not mainstream news agencies, that are going to call themselves legacy media. And so, where did legacy come from? How did that come into my vocabulary? What is that? So when we can look at the words and go, how did I pick them up? How did I get that hook in my mouth that said, I've been captured and I'm starting to use words that were programmed into me? This is really big stuff, because what we want to do is we want to blow that shit off of us, right? So what we want to do is we want to refuse to duplicate this energy. We want to blow it off and say, I'm not going to look and talk and act the way that I have seen the psychological manipulative programs from the outside trying to teach me how to do. I have to learn who I am on the inside. This is big stuff. So you have to do that really internal deep scan. Number 4, create common ground. Create common ground with anybody that you're talking to. Ask questions, then listen. Really listen with your ears open, like, I wonder how they got to that belief system. I wonder where their pain is. I wonder what's going on. Because I've been fielding phone calls from people on both sides talking and talking and talking, and they want to be heard and they want to be understood that this is a really hard period of time. And as a parent coach, I get it. I have moms calling and saying this about dad and the family. I've got dad calling and saying this about mom and the family. So what we have to do is we have to listen. We have to find a way to create common ground, right? Because what common ground does is it removes the managed, what, programmed reactivity, right? Takes us out of the, when you do this, I do that. And anyone who's trained a dog or taught a toddler to stop interrupting, I love that tool where you put your hand down and you say to your toddler, I would love to talk to you as soon as you hold my hand and you tell me that you have something to say. But if you go, mom, 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 it's going to be really hard for me not to go into reactivity. So what we're doing is we're learning how to manage ourselves on a much different level. Okay. Number 5, be curious. What do I know now that I didn't know before? What is it that I don't know? What if there's a different lens that I haven't looked through? And because Pluto, where's Pluto? Pluto's doing this to us. What I'm realizing is that there's a whole lot of information that I didn't know before. There's a whole lot of ways to collaborate with humans and start to create a different kind of world. There's a whole lot of information that's falling apart. This Roig deck has some phenomenal pictures for that. And I'm creating different constructs, new mental images that are mine, not coming from outside, that are coming from the internal out, right? And number 6, have compassion, because we signed up to be here. We signed up to guide ourselves and those we love through this. And this is not an easy time. It's going to be more challenging than we ever thought. So this is where we use our tools. Go back and watch as many videos as you need to, but let's use our tools and let's have compassion for ourselves and everybody else right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will either see you in discussion on Tuesday. Please come join, or next week. Take care.